Hi Matrix, welcome to our lesson today. Today we're looking at the human skeleton, and then a little later we're going to look at the human nervous system. So, I hope you're ready. Grade 10s and 11s, you're probably have been studying support systems, and last week we looked at the 3 different kinds of basic support systems that exist in the animal kingdom. We looked at hydrostatic skeletons, exoskeletons, and endoskeletons. Well, the human skeleton, one that you possess, is a perfect example of an endoskeleton. It is a framework that exists inside the body. It is a very important framework that performs a number of different functions, and what we're going to look at right now are all those different functions of the human skeleton. We need to remember that it's made up of 206 bones that are connected together to give the body support, strength, shape, and protection. First of all, if we think about support, you need to think back to when you learned technology as a grade 4, 5, or 6 learner. Remember that you learned about frame structures and shell structures that provide support in different ways. Remember that the endoskeleton is a frame structure, and it provides support from the inside, and things are then hung onto this framework. So it provides support and anchorage for body tissues such as muscles, and it gives the body shape. In the case of humans, the body is held in its characteristic upright position due to the skeleton. When we think about protection, we need to think about places where the bones either work their way completely around important organs, or that in some way they cradle the organs to provide a fair amount of protection. And so important vital internal organs that are soft and fleshy are protected by the very hard bone of the skeleton. I think the most obvious one is your brain box, or your skull or cranium, that is all the way around your most vital organ, of course your brain. Other organs associated with your head, your eyes, your ears, and other senses such as taste and smell are also protected to a greater extent by the skull. Think of your lungs and your heart situated in your upper body. They are also protected, not by a solid bony covering like the skull, but by the bones of the ribs, and to a large extent these upper bones of what we call your pectoral girdle. And those bones are going to not only support your body, but protect the heart and the lungs. Lower down your body, you have other important organs such as your kidneys, your reproductive organs, particularly the female reproductive organs, which are also, remember, going to contain in the uterus a growing baby. And your kidneys and lower reproductive organs are all contained in the bowl that is kind of made up of the pelvis. So protection is a vital function of the skeleton. Remember that you can't move without the assistance of muscle tissue. And in order for the muscles to move, they need something rigid and strong to act against. And that is obviously where the bone tissue comes in, because the bones are rigid and they are very, very strong. So they provide anchorage for the muscles to be attached to, and usually the muscles are attached from bone to a different bone, so that when the muscle contracts, one bone moves relative to another bone to bring about movement. Those possibly are the most obvious functions that you might think of that the skeleton performs, but there are other very important functions, such as blood cell production. New blood cells are actually produced in the bone marrow of certain bones. Right up at the top of the bones, we've got a much less dense and more spongy bone tissue that is actually involved in the production of blood cells. So your new blood cells, which are renewed on a regular basis, are produced inside the bone. Also, bones provide us with a place to store minerals, particularly calcium and phosphorus, which are vital for nerve functioning and for the way in which your cells behave and allow stuff to move across the membrane into or out of a cell. Calcium and phosphorus is vital, and what will happen if you don't get sufficient of that in your diet? You would get very ill and die pretty quickly. So your body actually stores calcium and phosphorus in the structure of the bone, and if you do not get it or adequate supplies in your diet, then your body kind of downloads it from the bones, and your body always has a constant supply of these very important minerals. Specialized movements of certain bones are going to bring about things like hearing or chewing and talking. And so we see that the skeleton has a whole range of very important functions. After the break, we'll have a look at the skeleton and the bones that make it up.